The 5 teenagers who were killed in a head-on collision on the M9 in County Kildare have been named. They died after their BMW car drove on the wrong side of the motorway and crashed head-on into another car in the early hours of yesterday morning, leaving 2 women critically injured. Taoiseach Micheál Martin has said there can be no tolerance for reckless driving. Well, our reporter Sharon Lynch joins me now from Carlow. Sharon.
Yes, Vivian, I've been in Carlow town today where those injured and some of the deceased are from. But the community here in Carlow town still coming to terms with that crash on the M9 in the early hours of Sunday morning, which seriously injured 3 women and a 7-year-old boy, and of course claimed the lives of 5 teenage boys who were from the Athy, Carlow and Limerick areas. Now, those 5 boys, of course, were travelling in that car which was travelling the wrong way on the M9 in the early hours of Sunday morning, and at around 3 a.m. they hit that second car carrying the 3 women and that 7-year-old boy between junctions 3 and 4. Now, all 5 teenage boys have been named locally this evening, and the women and child are recovering in hospital. Now, I've been gauging the reaction here to this crash, to what's been described as a tragedy on so many levels.
Hi guys, I hope you're doing well. This is quite a very unfortunate situation and a very sad situation. My heart goes out to the family, especially the parents of the 5 boys and mostly the people in critical condition. But I think no matter how your children turn out to be, it's very still painful to lose your kids. Now, this situation brought me to talk about things, 2 or 3 things that I've been reflecting on. So hear me out, okay? So what I feel right now is the complete anger that I have with TikTok in general and mostly social media, all right? It says, I don't know if it's the case for these lads who pass away, but it says that there seem to have been a lot of accounts online where there's those joyride and those stealing cars and taunting the police and taunting the neighborhood. And the most ironic part of it is that those accounts get views and they get likes. All right. So the way TikTok has set up the account, have you found that even Meta does that with Instagram? Is that it's either you like it or you leave it. There's no option for dislike a video. Okay. So a lot of time these boys don't understand right from wrong, and they're in their element and they just understand that, hey, I get likes, so people love this, so it's acceptable
behavior.
According to TikTok, it's closely monitoring content related to this incident and is removing videos and accounts that break its rules. It also says it removes content that glorifies violence or promotes crimes that could harm people, including risky driving. While Meta, which owns Facebook and Instagram, says it restricts users under 18 from viewing certain content that isn't suitable for them, including dangerous driving. However, today there have been calls for more action.
We need to tackle the growing problem of the glorification of these type of actions on social media, and social media companies need to be held to account. This is a broken system that needs to be addressed. The government need to take very seriously the ability of people to post what are grossly irresponsible, illegal actions on social media, and for them to remain on social media pages for a prolonged period of time.
Justice Minister Jim O'Callaghan says social media companies need to step up to the mark in moderating such content, and that firms have committed not to allow postings that glorify criminal behaviour. But added, regrettably, that hasn't been happening. Angus Cox, RTE News.
Okay, guys, indeed, it hasn't been happening. I'm a content creator, and I can tell you for sure that there's a lot of horror on those social media platforms. The things that are allowed, whether it be criminal behavior, whether it be abusive behavior, and like really, really, really bad behavior, they are still allowed. Okay. So one of the things that I also notice as a content creator is that what they do is that there's the button for like. The likes button there's no option to dislike, just like in Facebook where you would dislike something. And the funny thing about YouTube, for example, when you have the thumbs down, they actually take the video away from your page. You can just say, I don't like this video. It doesn't mean you don't have to report it. I just don't like the video, right? But they make it very difficult for people to dislike video and to even share their opinion, right? Now, attention is being given to these young boys, and they don't know from right and wrong. The moment they have 18,000 views or 13,000 views there and there, and they have likes, for them it's like, people like this, we're gonna keep doing it. All right. So that's the first aspect of it that I don't know what the governments in Europe are gonna do, especially in Ireland, about this, but this is quite serious, and it's much more online than what we see happening with this situation, for example. Second thing I want to address is the whole concept of disciplining our children. All right. Governments over the years have taken a very strong role into pretty much disrupting families into the way they want to discipline their children. And I'm not all for beating and punching children and all that, but I think there's some element of strict rules that are allowed. And parents are now very, very crippled, and their hands are tied in the way they want to regulate their children and discipline their children. And it means that when these things happen, children are becoming out of control, and people and parents are terrified in their own home, and they're too tired. All right. Now, the third thing I want to address as well is actually talking about discipline. There needs to be some regulation about giving the parents the right to actually discipline their children. Stop sending the teachers and acting as a spy or CIA on parents, and not allowing to express themselves and everything, and not allowing children to be told what is wrong. And then sometimes parents now can't discipline the children, and they leave that responsibility to the youth leader or to the after school person, and is a complex situation. So now the third aspect of this is what? All right. So I believe that there's a little bit incentive and funding to support families for extracurricular activities. It costs quite a lot for parents and there's not a lot of extracurricular activity. Now, I've seen there's a rise on soccer, and not every family want to do GAA, but I think soccer is doing well, but not all the boys want to play soccer. So there's a lot of activities that are starting across the countries, but they're very expensive. So parents the cost of living is high, and a lot of parents can't afford to really give what the children want, and they are bored and they are distracted because they're not really stimulated by the right activity, because it costs a fortune. Only people from a certain class can afford to do all those activities that children can get involved that allow them to stay out of trouble. All right. And obviously, the whole concept of allowing children to have phone from the age of 9 and everything, I think is a big responsibility to even allow children to have the screen at that time. I think 11 is probably the best age, because it's preteen and the child has already learned some level of discipline and self-control that allows him to be a little bit monitored, and then be putting more strict rules on what the children how the children use their phone. And what is good about Apple, you have a lot of way to restrict access to certain things, certain app and online. But that goes back to the whole aspect of discipline. Like, you're going to restrict your child with the phone, and the child is going to throw a tantrum, it's going to become a problem, and you don't even have right to intervene, right? But I think when I want to come back to the activities, is that a lot of countries in Europe actually do subsidize and do provide support to organizations for extracurricular activity. That means that parents in some places in Europe, mostly in Europe, the EU, as in, for example, in France, pay a minimal amount of money to support that. So the government will pay a big amount, and the parents will just add like a minimal amount to be able to let the children go out and do a lot of activities that take them out of trouble, sport, learning a new skill that is very useful for them. So there's not a lot of that. And when there is that, it's very expensive, because those companies and those organizations need to pay insurance, and it's quite expensive. So this situation has brought 3 key things that needs to be addressed, not just about the accountability of social media. TikTok doesn't care, right? I don't think they're going to make themselves accountable with this issue. All right. So it's quite obvious that there is definitely a little bit of some power struggle there with TikTok. I don't know. But I'm just thinking that if we can nip this from the house first, that would be great. Thank you so much for listening. And I hope this family find peace, especially those who are in hospital. And we hope for the best for our children. It's a very crazy war out there now, especially for boys. Thank you. Stay tuned for more stories. Goodbye.